2 years ago, I introduced myself in Paris by saying that I was the man who had accompanied Mrs. Kennedy to Paris. I'm getting somewhat that same sensation as I travel around Texas.
Here is a special bulletin from Dallas, Texas. President Kennedy and Texas Governor John Connally shot from ambush.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
Less than 2 hours after President Kennedy was shot on Elm Street in Dealey Plaza, the Dallas police had a suspect in custody and a strong body of physical evidence. Lee Harvey Oswald owned the rifle that proved to be the murder weapon. His presence at the scene of the murder was beyond dispute, and there was no physical or eyewitness evidence at hand suggesting that anyone other than Lee Harvey Oswald had committed the crime. Yet from the very beginning, the simplest explanation was the hardest to accept.
To accept the fact that someone so inconsequential, someone so insignificant as a Lee Oswald could accomplish something so monumental as killing a president of the United States. A peasant can't kill a king.
Almost immediately, thoughts turned to conspiracy. When Jack Ruby shot Oswald less than 48 hours after the assassination, those thoughts became, for many, a conviction.
This couldn't happen. If something like that is to happen, if that angry young man can operate a bolt-action rifle in that time and then be silenced afterwards, obviously it took a network of financiers and activists and plotters and planners, and this was something that's been planned for months and carried out in absolute secrecy and detail.
The coincidence of Kennedy's assassin being assassinated was too much for the Dallas police to simply dismiss.
Well, we didn't know at the beginning. See, we worked it for 6 or 8 months as a conspiracy, and then we found out that, of course, Ruby was questioned many times, and he kept saying I didn't know him, I had nothing to do with him. We had a lot of people tell me they saw him together, but when I get that down to it, I say, well, I'm sure you wouldn't lie to us, but let me take you down there and put you on the polygraph list. Oh, no, I ain't gonna do that. I can't do that.
The President's Commission on the Assassination of President Kennedy, better known as the Warren Commission, reached the conclusion that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. That conclusion has never been fully accepted. Almost every day, one or another person sets up shop at Dealey Plaza to advance the idea that the killing of President Kennedy was the work of a large, highly secretive, and very sinister conspiracy. That the conspirators remain undiscovered a half-century later only proves the deception.
How would a conspiracy of such magnitude work with no leaks whatsoever? How could you keep security on it?
Well, if you ignore the policeman's testimony, that would do it right there.
Yet those that were there to a person believe that Oswald acted alone and without any grand design.
I think he was just like Ruby. He wanted to be known. He wanted to get well known, and he'd like to have been the type of individual that would walk down the street and people say, oh, there goes Mr. Oswald over there.
Tom Dillard, the chief photographer for the Dallas News, was sitting next to me on the back of the seat, and we looked at each other, and I looked up directly in front of me because we were facing the book depository. I looked up and I saw two men hanging out of what turned out to be the 5th floor, kind of hanging out of over the window ledge, looking up above them, and my eyes went on up to the next floor, the 6th floor, and there was a rifle resting on the ledge. And almost immediately, it was drawn in.
My belief, having been there, having heard the shots, seen the shots, the 3 shots, knowing where they came from, and knowing that the guy was up there, capable of operating it, capable of doing it, never admitted it. Never. Not to his arresting officers, not to the interrogating officers, never admitted it. Went to the grave with it. But it's obvious one man did it with 3 shots.
50 years after Kennedy was assassinated, Dealey Plaza draws a crowd every single day. Many who come do so as a forensic pursuit, hoping to find that bit of evidence that all others have overlooked. Who killed Kennedy remains for many a fascinating question.
It's still going on with Lincoln. Well, anytime there's an assassination, there's an attractiveness about it. There's a dark attractiveness, a mystery about it that a lot of people simply can't release.
3 Days in Dallas is underwritten by Christian Brothers Automotive and is a production of News Talk 600 KTBB and KTBB.com. I'm Paul Gleiser.